Growing up is a difficult time for many young women, and as we get older, we learn to appreciate style more, but we also become aware of the effects the fashion industry has. The introduction of plus-size models and clothing in our shops has created a whole new wave of fashion. But with a rise in eating disorders, have we seen a change in the industry for good? Or do many women all over the UK still feel like they cannot compare to the photoshopping and unrealistic body sizes we see on the runway? With over 1.6 million women in the UK being affected by an eating disorder, I need to find out what is causing so many women across the country to turn to eating disorders.
They seem to equate thinness, for example, with happiness.
What can be done to help the growing generation?
Just have normal sized bodies or just a mixture of bodies.
And is anybody doing anything to help? I'm Robyn Maycock, and I want to find out, is the fashion industry having an effect on eating disorders in young women? Paris, the fashion capital of the world, where the government have overturned a law to ban unhealthily skinny models, bringing the issue of eating disorders in the fashion industry to international news and sparking a complete change in the catwalks we see today. The news brought to light just how many people in the UK were suffering with an eating disorder fueled by the fashion industry. I'm here in Northampton to speak to a young woman who reached out to me about her experience with an eating disorder.
I first started having an unhealthy body image at around 12 and then started to slip into an eating disorder when I was 13. I would feel terrible about myself for years, and I got over it myself without any sort of help. Did go into counselling afterwards for a while, and then I was fine for a couple of years, and my first year of uni I had a major relapse.
What more do you think could be done within the fashion industry and in general, really?
With especially the fashion industry, magazines and everything, just having normal sized bodies. Like, you don't have to have the extremes of really, really skinny models and then plus size models and make it an entire like body positive campaign. Just have normal sized bodies or just a mixture of bodies.
Although mainly young women are affected, eating disorder charity Beat found cases of girls younger than 6 suffering from an eating disorder, as well as women older than 70. Eating disorders are still such a common thing in young women, so what is it that's causing a huge problem in today's younger generation? I found Liz Ritchie, a self-care body image therapist at St Andrew's Hospital here in Northampton. Through her work, Liz was published in a parliamentary report about the effects body image has on younger people. I'm hoping she can give me some insight into what could be the root cause to the eating disorder rise.
60% of girls, adolescent girls, also want to be thin. They want to look like models. They buy into the thin aspiration. They buy into the thin ideal. And of course what happens is social media then becomes a toxic mirror. And again, it gives out very, very toxic messages to our young people in terms of how they should look. And the fact that photoshopping, Snapchat, Instagram, etc., all of these forums afford them the ability to actually change how they really look. What that then does, it distorts reality.
Last year, CNN named Instagram the worst social media service for young people's mental health, after the Royal Society of Public Health revealed that over 90% of young people are using social media. Okay, so we've established that social media is a huge contributor to mental health illness and eating disorders online. But looking through Facebook here, I've typed in eating disorder support groups and I'm not finding a lot of things. I found mainly charities, things that aren't really stable with their work. But surely if this is such a big problem, why aren't the government putting more money into our mental health facilities and charities like this to create a stable source for young people? I visited one of the very few charities that I found online, the Positive Youth Foundation in Coventry. After a recent visit from the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge to praise their work, I thought I'd find out a bit more about their funding and if it is easily accessible to young women. How are the foundation funded, and do you think that sometimes because of the funding it can become a challenge to provide for everybody?
Okay, so our organisation, how we're funded, we're about 40% funded applications. In addition, we have charged services. So we go out to schools, we go out to organisations, and we sell training. We're in a good position because our governance structure, we're very forward thinking in terms of the fact that we need to be a social enterprise. We need to be charging for work, because if we're not doing that, we're relying on funding bids. The problem with relying on funding bids, you hit the nail on the head, is that if a funder suddenly decides that the fad in town is mental health and that's what we should all be working with, then everyone's funding bids is pointing towards that. Eating disorders, where does that lie? Yes, we'll apply for mental health funding, but it's to try a brand new kind of way of thinking or a way of working. So we try and put a lot of our charged income into sustaining services, and I think that's really, really important.
After visiting Susie at the Positive Youth Foundation headquarters, I wanted to see for myself what the foundation have set up for young women in the Coventry area and how they were educating them on this huge social issue. In the session I visited, the girls were debating whether people with eating disorders did it for attention and popularity, or the matter was much more serious.
People that are not even powerful, like, have anorexia, do you get what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to always be powerful, do you get what I mean? Like, someone wants to be powerful, someone wants to get their parents, you know, this. Some people it just comes naturally, you know? People just tell you, but it still comes back to media, and, you know, they're always trying to attract something. It's actually, I don't know.
People are not going to go up to someone and say, oh, I've got anorexia. I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
They're not going to go up to
I didn't say, some people do it for attention.
and that's why so many people don't understand mental health. This is why so many people do not understand mental health.
A study carried out by Model Health Inquiry found that roughly 40% of models in the fashion industry could be suffering from an eating disorder. Other studies have found that 62% of models have been told to lose weight or change their body shape, and 54% have been told that they will not have jobs in the modelling industry if they do not lose weight. The British Fashion Council released a document for all models involved in London Fashion Week. The document stated, as a model, you will take on many different looks at the hands of brilliant makeup artists and hairstylists. This is normal and can be a fun part of your career. However, if someone tells you to dramatically alter your looks in any other way, then you should raise this with either your agency or, if you don't feel you are being heard, with the British Fashion Council. I contacted several modelling companies who all refused to speak on the matter. I met with the fashion subject leader at the University of Northampton, Julie King, to find out what measures are in place to keep young women safe when they are looking to go into the modelling industry.
If they're young models, then they have to come with a chaperone to any event, whether it be a photo shoot or a catwalk. What we have to do then is to complete a form, if they're underage, with their local authority. So for example, if you had a model coming here who's from Manchester, and Greater Manchester would contact us and ask us to complete a safeguarding form, and then they would make a visit and they would talk to the chaperone. So there are quite a lot of safeguards in place for the younger girls. I think that when they get to sort of 16, 18 plus, and then they don't have to have all of that in place, then that's perhaps where you potentially could become more vulnerable.
Through this documentary, I've met the people suffering from eating disorders, the ones from within the fashion industry, and the people who want to make a change. It's possible that the fashion industry is having a huge effect on young girls, but can we really decide if they are the ones to blame for the rise in eating disorders when social media has become the centre of these edited lives? My time at the Positive Youth Foundation made me realise that maybe it isn't what the young girls are seeing online, but the education around it. Younger women should be educated on the dangers of an eating disorder and shown that these images we see on magazines aren't realistic or something to aspire to be. But is anyone really to blame here? Or is it just the way we live our lives now, through social media websites that have created this toxic environment? One thing I know is young women are suffering from eating disorders for many reasons, and the fashion industry does play a huge part in this, with social media at its side.